First off, I want to say hello and welcome to everyone. I'm Colin Boyles, Interim Associate AD for External Relations, and I just want to thank you all for being here in person and those of you watching on the NSIC Network stream. First off today, we're going to have Dr. John Hoffman, the BSU President, introduce our new Director of Athletics, Britt Lauritsen. After that, we'll have some questions for Britt at the podium, and with that, I'll pass it over to Dr. Hoffman.
Well, it is so exciting to be here in Beaver territory. I am just thrilled to be working for you, and I'm excited about the opportunity to engage in competition and the development of our student athletes, and just a great institutional tradition. So I'm thrilled to be here. And I know you're not really here to hear from me today, so I want to turn this over, but I'm going to tell a story that's become a little bit tired in a couple circles, but it's just a great story and I think says a lot about our new athletic director. So it's a little bit of an awkward situation when you're working on hiring a new athletic director and you haven't started the job yet. And so in a very generous way, President Hensrud reached out to me, asked me to engage in the process early on and to work with some of the finalists. I was in the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport when I got the list of finalists, and so started making some phone calls to institutions where some of the finalists were at Washburn, where Britt Lauritsen comes from. Good friend of mine in student affairs, and I reach out and I give him a phone call, and we do the typical catch up on how's things going in the spring, etc. And then I just I reach out and I say, so Eric, the reason I'm reaching out to you right now is I want to talk to you about Britt Lauritsen. And about that moment, I got about half of the last name out, and he cuts me off and says, don't you dare take her away from me. And he went on for the next 20 minutes just raving about her. Again, these themes of competition, just a deep, fierce competitor, wicked smart. Those are his words, wicked smart. A great team player with the administration, a developer of humans, but first and foremost, someone who is committed to the success of every student. And that's success in every sense of the term. Of course, it's on the field, on the court, in competition, but in life, in the classroom, in personal and the whole goals. And that is a part of what is going to be the defining characteristic of Beaver athletics moving forward. And I'm so excited to move here, to work for Britt Lauritsen and help her be successful in helping our students, our institution, and our community succeed and win. So with that, let's go, Britt Lauritsen.
Got my little step stool here. That was necessary. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hoffman, so much. I appreciate the opportunity, probably more than I can ever really put into words, but I think I've said this quite a bit in my interview, the Zoom interview, the in-person, on-campus interview. I've said it as I've talked with Micah and with others. I'm a really big fan of the Pat Summitt quote, "You win in life with people." That's really the core of what we do in athletics, is we develop people. And we make sure that we are acknowledging big wins, small wins, everything in between in that growth equation as we're working with people. And so if I didn't acknowledge the people who helped me win up to this point in life, that would be a waste of this press conference. So obviously family's the most important thing in our lives. My wife Emily is here. I'm so glad that you're able to be here today, Em. We've been through a lot in the past 18 months, and I swore I wasn't going to get emotional about it, but she really has been the driving force in what gets us to this point. Her tenacity and her grace within that opportunity. I think having a stroke, most people don't consider that an opportunity, but ultimately it redefined what our family looked like. It redefined what our goals and our values looked like, and moving forward, what we wanted the rest of our future to be. And so watching her work through that and work with such tenacious drive really is what kind of set the bar for who I am as a person and who I am as a professional. And so really, we wouldn't have pursued that opportunity had we not seen what it looked like to do really hard things all the time and to step into that with full force. And so I appreciate that probably more than anything else, is just this opportunity to lead with Emily, because we are a partnership and we are a family, and we hope that that's what we bring to BSU, is that everybody is a part of our family and a part of what we do. Search committee, the incredible amount of time and effort that the search committee put into this search was evident from moment one. From the first email that I got to every step along the process, it was intentional. And when you have a campus that is so focused on intentionality and doing things with a reason and with a purpose, you could tell that they were putting a lot of thought into this. And so I'm very humbled and honored that throughout that process, they gave me the opportunity to pursue this with you all. The BSU coaches, from literally the first 30 seconds that I was announced, I'm getting text messages, I'm getting phone calls. Everything about that moment was perfect, because everything that I saw on campus, it showed me that we walk the walk here. It wasn't just a show during the interview process. It was who we are and what we do at Bemidji State, and that's incredible. Tracy Dill, man, you guys had an excellent leader in him. He has been phenomenal in my transition. He's been so helpful. He's going to get so sick of answering cell phone calls from me and text messages. He's already done so much to help in this transition, and he's so willing to put himself out there because he cares about this community and he cares about this institution. And when you have somebody who is leaving a role and handing it over to the next person, sometimes it's a really hard transition because you pour so much of your life into it and so much of your heart, and you can tell that he's done that. So that's just a huge benefit that not everybody in athletic director roles get when somebody leaves a position. So I'm incredibly fortunate for that. Lauren Foray at Washburn Athletics, all of the Washburn coaches and staff, they gave me an opportunity when I was very, very young, just out of law school, to be able to go and do a lot of really cool things that at the time, with my experience, I probably had no business doing, and gave me the full kind of faith and allowance to be autonomous and to make big decisions and be in the room where things happen. And without that, I don't think that I would have been prepared to step into this role, but having that mentorship and having the trust that the Washburn community put into me helped me to step into this community, and I hope to keep rolling that along. Speaking of the Bemidji community in and of itself, man, small town at its best. It's been so good. I got here, and literally night one, I went out to a restaurant, and this young woman kind of kept looking at me a little funny, and finally she goes, "Do you work at BSU?" And I said, "I will in about 8 days." And she goes, "Are you the new athletic director?" And I said, "Yeah." And so then she tells me that she's a women's ice hockey student athlete. She had just graduated in the spring. Come to find out, not only was she just a women's ice hockey student athlete, but I think she's our third leading goal scorer ever, like 6th in all-time points. I mean, just an absolute rock star, but super humble about it. And that's just kept happening over and over, just going out in the community and having folks recognize me, being so open to Emily and to our relationship and who we are as people. That's been really helpful as we've settled in. So I know that people are going to have questions, so I'm not going to sit here and ramble a whole lot, but I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about what I envision for Bemidji State Athletics and kind of where I want us to be. I think culturally we're at a really, really great point where we can continue to build and move in the right direction. our coaches, our staff, everybody, we have to be continual learners, all of us, because that helps us teach, that helps us lead our student athletes into growth, and it helps build perspective. We need to be willing to take risks and to be vulnerable and be flexible and give grace when we need to, and win some dang games. I mean, that's important too. All of those things build on one another. And so when we genuinely care about people and care about the process of winning, all of those things should fall in line. We should be building great people, great humans from day one, and then they will go out and win. I think that's a foundation that, again, I talked about, I think is already here, and we just build on that. When you ask people in athletics why they do what they do, the hours are crazy, the grind is real. Our work-life balance sometimes is really not good. But I sent an email to our coaches this morning saying that first things comes first. President Hoffman talks about that all the time. Your family, your faith, whatever it is that you put in the forefront of your life, we need to keep balanced, and we need to model that for our student athletes. But ultimately, we do this job because we love it. It's what most everybody would tell you, whether they're a coach or work in administration. You are in college athletics because you love what you do. And love requires action. You can't just love something and not act on it. And that's where we need to be. We need to be constantly in that mode that our love that we have for what we do requires action. It requires us to lead by example and not just take energy, but to give energy, to integrate with our community, and really step up into every single day and do hard things really well every single day. So with that, I'm going to just stop talking for a second. If you have questions, please, I would love to answer those.
I'm Micah Fries with the Bemidji Pioneer. When we elect a new president, a lot of times we like to talk about your first 100 days, and obviously this is a little bit different role than that. But when you think of it in that scope, just what do you want to accomplish in these first 100 days?
It's a great question. First 100 days, I've got to shut my mouth and listen, open my ears a lot, because ultimately, where we sit as an athletics department depends on my ability to understand where we've been and where our coaches, our student athletes, our administration want to move us. I'm not from this area, and I'm even new to this conference, and so I have to do a lot of listening in those first 100 days to really understand kind of where we are, with our goals, things like that, and to really understand, what comes next. So I think it's hard sometimes to resist the urge to come in and say, I want to do X, Y, and Z in the first 100 days, because that's my vision. But my vision really doesn't matter as much as everybody else's does in this process. So listening is a big one. President Hoffman and I are coming in right at the same time, where we need to talk about what strategic priorities we have on a broad scale, on an overarching scale. We keep talking about wins. Wins are important. Facilities are important. Recruitment and retention is important. And if we can recruit and retain student athletes in our student body, we need to figure out ways to do that and keep moving that forward. So I would really say first 100 days is letting these folks get to know me and getting to know them, and making sure that I'm not putting the cart before the horse when it comes to what I see as a vision if no one else is going to buy into that. Are you going to pull like a Ted Lasso and keep saying your name and affiliation? Because that would be cool.
No, I'll just go again. It's Micah. You're also a female athletic director, which still feels kind of rare, but at the same time, it's a great opportunity too, probably more than I realize as a man. So, what kind of weight comes with that responsibility, and what kind of opportunities come with that with that opportunity as well?
Ooh, weight. I would say it is still fairly rare. I have been really, really fortunate to link up with Women Leaders in College Sports, which is a really great organization that's shown me some of these great women athletic directors and what they've been able to accomplish. But, I think that being a woman sometimes, you're fighting the battle of, oh, well, this is so new. Ultimately, the job is the job, and we have to do it well. Sometimes as a woman, it feels like you have to do it twice as well to get half the credit, and that just kind of is what it is. But I think, again, modeling the behaviors that you want to see, I think, builds respect. And that's the biggest thing, is you can't go in and demand respect because, it's novel to have a female AD. You can't expect that things are going to be handed to you because, it's cool. It's cool until we have to start making hard decisions, and male or female, those times are tough. But I think that going back to kind of the winning in life with people, my family, my parents especially, put me in a situation where I saw female role models from day one. I was never put in a situation where it didn't seem possible to do whatever I wanted to do, except the time I told my dad I wanted to play for Pat Summitt at Tennessee, and he told me that you should maybe practice a little harder than what you do. I am also 5'1", so I don't think Pat would have ever taken me. But yeah, I always saw my mom and my sister and my grandparents and my dad and everybody who were such big proponents of being strong and independent as a female and not really letting that get in the way and just using that kind of as a superpower. So it's a really great opportunity, but I don't think that it necessarily changes how I'm going to do the job, because I got to come in and kick butt no matter what. Yeah, absolutely. Being at a multi-divisional institution does feel very rare in other parts of the country, and so we have to find a good balance. Obviously, around here, Division I hockey, that's a huge driver in the community. That's what folks buy into. Hockey is life up here, and so we need to make sure that we are putting that forth in the community and keeping that strong community bond and keeping that fan ownership and kind of community ownership in those programs, because they mean so much. But on the Division II level, making sure that those student athletes don't feel as if they are, less than Division I counterparts, but also making sure Division I counterparts don't feel like they're completely excluded from what we do. Our student athletes are our student athletes no matter what. They have to be treated like family, and so we have to make sure that we're integrating everybody in that situation. On the Division II side of things, we have to continue to be competitive. We're in a situation where, scholarship-wise, facility-wise, things like that, we have room for improvement, but you've seen that we have programs that are very successful and are continuing to be successful. I think having more community and fan buy-in for those programs will help our community and our department and our university as a whole. I think that we have to see the value in all of our sports. It doesn't matter what division it is. They all bring something new and unique to the table. They all bring us students. Our community really needs to feel that. So getting our student athletes out in the community, no matter if they're D1, D2, and making those connections, I feel like is an important thing. But for me personally, I've never worked at a multi-divisional institution, and so the learning curve is going to be different. I like to kind of consider myself a D2 specialist, when it comes to compliance and things like that, and so there's a little learning curve there. But ultimately, sport is sport. We're here to win. We're here to teach student athletes how to be better leaders and better community members, and that doesn't matter what division they're in.
I'm Kev Jackson of Paul Bunyan Broadcasting. All of us here know how awesome Bemidji and Bemidji State is, but what was it about Bemidji State that made you pick up the phone when they called?
Wow. Emily and I talked a lot about this move. We talked a lot about how any decision that we made had to feel perfect. And perfect is a pretty high standard. We were at a point where I knew that professionally I wanted to take the next step, but I wanted to be at a place that felt like it would be a move that would be supported by the coaches in the community, by the administration, have some room for growth, have some room potentially for improvement, and to really do something incredible. And really, John was talking about the first time he talked with Eric Grosspitch from Washburn about me. He was in the airport. First time I talked to John, I was in the airport coming home from my interview. And really that conversation, it was, I don't know, probably 40 minutes or so, right around there, really kind of showed me what the future of this community and this university could look like, and I was very excited by that. I was very excited about the buy-in for the competitive nature of what we do, but also the other pieces that being in higher education can really kind of throw into the mix. And so feeling like I would have support from that leadership, from the president's chair on down. I met with the president's cabinet as well when I was here, and felt like there was a really big draw to have athletics be an important part of what we did. So that was important. And then the community-wise, I grew up in a community that's about Bemidji size. Maybe not quite as removed from some other similarly situated communities, but ultimately it kind of felt like coming home. And I didn't expect that. When I got off the plane and when I went through the interview process and went around town, I just kept thinking, and I kept texting Emily, like, man, this feels like Bedford, Indiana. Like, this feels exactly like home. And it's lived up to that. I think every good memory I have of like that really positive atmosphere in a community comes from being in a smaller community and being in a place where people care. And Emily grew up in Omaha, so she didn't grow up kind of with that same type of community. And when I was excited to share that with her, I thought, yeah, this is it. So really that feeling of being at home, you can't duplicate that, and you can't create that out of thin air. And all of the boxes just got checked.